Hello and welcome to the 500 Workshop. Today we're going to be looking at the front drum brakes. Here we have our drum brake. This is an old drum brake that I'm no longer using, so this was on my 500L, but I replaced the front brakes with disc brakes, so these are my old drum brakes. Still in reasonably good condition at the front here. The back is a little bit worse for wear. I've mounted it in a vise here so we can take a look at it. See if we can swing the arm around slightly. So here, hopefully you can see we've got our bleed nipple. We've got the point where our brake fluid enters into our slave cylinder, and we've got two bolts either side here, one here and one here, and they hold our slave cylinder on. In order to see the slave cylinder, we need to take off our drum brake, so that's going to be our first job. Now the front brake is different to the rear brake. To access the front brake and get this hub off, first of all we need to remove this cover. Now these can be tricky to remove. There are a number of ways you can do it. I've seen people destroy them before and then just replace it, but what we're going to try and do with a screwdriver is try and ease it out. Can't seem to get much purchase here. So we'll try some mole grips. We need to expand these a bit more. You can easily, and I already have, damage this part. Like I said, you can get new ones. Okay, that's starting to come now. Oh, and there we go. So what you should have, if it's a reasonably healthy one, is lots of grease packed into the top here. It's just kind of a universal grease, and that's to try and protect this part of the hub and your wheel bearing, which is in here. So just going to get a bit of a dirty cloth, but just to wipe the excess grease off of this bolt. Now this bolt holds the drum in place. This bolt is unique in that it is a reverse thread. So instead of normal kind of turning anti-clockwise to loosen something and clockwise to tighten it, in this case we'll have to turn it clockwise in order to loosen it. Also, I'll just zoom in for you here. Okay, you'll also see here that these bolts are meant to be peened. Now peened means kind of knocked in at the side to secure it in place. So when you come in to remove it, you have to remove the peen first. Now for some reason this one hasn't been peened particularly well, so I don't need to remove it, but if you need to remove it, you're basically trying with a soft rubber mallet and a screwdriver or a chisel or something, just trying to knock it back. And that's why whenever you're doing something to the front brakes or to the bearing here, which sits behind here, That's why you want to replace these nuts. So if you are doing work, get yourself a set of nuts, one for each side, that you can replace, and then peen it again as a fresh nut. So this nut is a 22 millimeter. So we should be able to put this on here, and remember we've got it switched to tighten rather than loosen. And there we go. We should start to be able to just take this off now. That might be a lot tighter. This one I've probably put back together at some point and not tightened it to the correct setting. So don't worry if you're finding it slightly more difficult than I did there. We can then start to move out our disc. Sorry, our drum, not our disc. We have here a washer that sits in front of the nut, and our bearing. So here's our bearing. Hopefully you can see there's the washer and there's the bearing. Bearing goes in that way. Washer on top, bolt on top of that. I think this washer actually looks damaged, so I'm guessing it should have a tab there, which, yeah, says a groove within this spline. So I would imagine, let's just check. Yeah, it's not. I would imagine that this sits on first. So let's slip down. Yeah, sorry, this isn't on, is it now? Yeah, that slips on first, then aligning with that groove, the washer goes on, and then the bolt. But hopefully now we can take it off as one unit and reveal what's behind. So what you're looking for here is, here's our drum, and what you're really inspecting is the inner rim here, and you are looking for any kind of warping, distortion, big scratches, anything that would stop our pads from stopping our car. This is obviously relatively new and doesn't have any marks at all in there. Then we come on to what we have inside here. So we have our shoes, we have our springs which hold our shoes together. Here are our self-adjusters, so we don't need to unlike some cars and some setups, you can adjust the brakes, but what you do here is, once you've put this all together, you are meant to drive the car forwards and then in reverse and keep doing that and stamping on the brakes, and it will self-adjust with these pieces here. Then we have our slave cylinder. So our master cylinder is in generally the front of the car. It has the brake fluid coming down from a reservoir, again in the front of the car, and we'll take a look at this some other time. The reservoir feeds the master cylinder, and when you put your foot on the brake pedal, it activates the master cylinder, sending brake fluid to the slave cylinders. So there's one on each corner. Slave cylinder then pushes the fluid in and pushes the brakes out. Now, I can't physically force those brakes out, but the fluid pressure is enough to move those brakes out, and the pads then spring open, touch the brake rim on here, and slows our car down. So we are going to dismantle this to show you exactly what it looks like. It's far easier generally, in my experience, to get out than it is put back together. So what we're going to do is pull these. and that should give us a starting point. There we go. And there we have those out. Okay, so we got our springs here which do detach. Let's do a bit of a closer inspection on here. So what you're looking for on the brake shoe is any leakage from the brake, from the slave cylinder. You're looking for any scratches, any deep indentations. You're looking for the thickness here to be good. And we just can see, here's our self adjuster, and it's like a little mounted spring with a couple of washers. You want to make sure that these kind of rubber, or I'm not quite sure what they are, but they're some kind of material, is not broken apart or damaged in any way. So these again quite new, so they look good. Just show you the other one, show you it's the same, no real problem there. You can see where the main pad has been used. There's a bit down the bottom here which less so, and everything else looks good. So we're going to look at the back again now, because we're going to take our slave cylinder off, and there's two 10mm bolts which should be holding this on. Put it on tighten. Right, so one's on this side of our kingpin. Kingpin is the actual kind of steering joint here. And one the other side. I just need to turn this round while I do that one. There we go, so that's out. Then we're going to take off this bolt here, which is where the hydraulic or brake fluid comes into. Looks like it's just slightly bigger than a 13, so maybe that's a 14. Let me go and get a 14 spanner. There is a 14, and I'm just gonna take this out. Make sure I'm going the right way. I don't think I am. I'm looking at it from the back, so that's more difficult. Now, from memory, I think this is called a banjo bolt. If it's not, I'll correct it in the video afterwards. And what you can see here is, oh, let me just get it so it's in focus. Hopefully you can see that the bolt has a hole in it, in the side and also in the bottom, and so the hydraulic fluid, the join here, comes into here and out through that hole and into our slave cylinder. There we go, and our slave cylinder then just pulls out. So here's our slave cylinder. So these are the mounting points. Here's where our banjo bolt goes into, and the fluid goes in there, and this is our bleed nipple. It's not looking the best of condition on this side, it has to be said. On the inside it looks okay though, and if we what we can do is push, or what we should be able to do is push both sides nicely, and they should spring back. But one side is actually not springing back at all. So I would actually, if I was ever going to use this brake again, replace these for sure. Actually, there's a huge amount of corrosion in there. See if you can see that. There's quite a lot of corrosion in there. Just going to remove the rubber on this end. Just see if I can get this to move at all. There we go. That's got it moving now. So free it up a bit. So it may be serviceable to go again, but personally I'd probably replace it. It's got a lot of detritus in it. for our purposes today, it's just a demonstration, so I'm not going to replace it, but see, it doesn't bounce back like this one does. It might be because we don't have our rubber on it, so let's try and see if we can get our rubber back, which might be easier said than done. Okay, yeah, still not springing back, so I would definitely be replacing this part, which is our slave cylinder. You should be able to squeeze it from both sides and it should kind of nicely bounce back. You can see that one is just bouncing back nicely, and this one just stays back where it was. Also on the back here you've got two 13s, so we can take those off, and that should allow us to remove our back plate. Okay, now they are solid, so we're going to have to give them a bit of a spray. Here I've just got some spray that I'm going to put on. It's I use the XCP, but you can use WD-40 or whatever you prefer. Let's just get that working in there for a couple of minutes. There we go. It's starting to move now. Sometimes you just get a bit more leverage with a spanner. Okay, so we've taken both those out, and we should just be able to hopefully remove this. Might need a bit of persuasion, it's been on a long time. Really stuck on this side. There we go. So here's our plate, which if I was keeping this set up, I would definitely be probably blasting this in my blast cabinet, and then refitting it. Although that said, looking at these threads, they're probably too far gone, and in all honesty I'd probably replace the back plate, which you can do quite easily. Spare parts online for that. Okay, so cleaned it up a little bit. I'm going to try and go for reassembly. Just get rid of that grease. So yeah, I've tried to clean up these. They don't have a lot of life left in them, to be honest with you. They're okay to put back together on here for a demonstration, but like I said, if I would be replacing them if it was my own personal setup on my car. The plate slides back on. We then are going to put our nuts back on the back, our 13 nuts. So okay, so they're back on. So we're going to do this in reverse order. So here's our slave cylinder. Again, would replace this. I mean, it's not leaking, but the fact that this side of the cylinder is not pushing out properly, and all of this is quite rusted up, is not great. So we're going to put that in, and we're going to put our bolts back in here. Oh, they had a washer. Swap for our 10mm. and just tighten these up. Now comes the trickier part, and that is to get our brake shoes back on. So there's a couple of challenging parts to this. You want to make sure first of all you got the brake shoes the right way around, which is like this. But these need to be behind the bottom plate. Hopefully you see that. And they also need to be fixed in the top here, so these have a little groove, as does the cylinder at the top, so they need to be on. So that looks easy, doesn't it, right? You can just do that. The challenge here is these springs are really, I mean, look at the difference between where that hole is and how long that spring is. And this one specifically needs to be behind here as well. So you can see once that's hooked in, trying to, you probably can't see actually, let's do it the other way around because I think the camera angle would be better. So if we hook it in on the left side here, you can see the kind of distance that this needs to go in order to get to that hole. So we do it in a similar way to how we took them off. I'm going to hook up the springs first of all, on top and bottom. Which is easier said than done. Okay, there we go. Right, now we're going to try and put these back on. So we're going to start by putting the bottoms in place, then trying to lever it out over to get into place, which I have managed to on the cylinder itself. And then we're going to push these back, hopefully onto their seats. So doing it in tandem is quite difficult. It's generally better with two pairs of hands, so assume that's one pair of hands on the side there, and I will try and get this one over this side, which I've done, but now the spring needs to go over. There we go. Okay, so that's good now. If I release this, hopefully it should all stay in one place. So if you don't have two pairs of hands, get yourself one of these. It's Amazon Basics clamp that I got. Knew it would come in useful, and it has. So managed to get those back on the spring behind. Now if I was genuinely putting this back together, now I'd be spraying these pads with brake cleaner, making sure that any grease or anything that we've got on them by doing this is removed. I'd also be doing the same thing with my hub here, so cleaning all the inside, making sure it's all good, assuming I hadn't replaced it, but even if I had, you still want to degrease it. Now we can put our plate over, and this can be quite tricky on occasions if the brake shoes have really been pushed out wide by any fluid. That can be quite tight to get on, but it's okay in this situation. We then take some grease, get our bearing, make sure it's all nicely greased up. you probably pack quite a lot of grease on this, to be fair. Make sure it's nicely greased. This is our wheel bearing. That would go in. Then we take our washer, line it up with our piece there and get that in as well. Then we get our new nut and we'd be tightening this on. Okay, so we're putting our nut back on here. We're checking our manual, and you probably can't quite see this, but it says replace the washer and the nut, which is what I suggested, and tighten to a torque of 21.7 foot-pounds, and then slacken the nut approximately 60 degrees. So we have our torque wrench here, and we've set it to, let's just set it to 21.7, just under 22, and we will get our ratchet and we'll start doing this up. I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? It's meant to be the opposite way, isn't it? So let's do that again. Remember, it's reverse thread, which is why we're going the wrong way. Here we go, right. There we go, nice snap. And then it said remove it or unwind it by about 60 degrees. So if it's there, that'll be about 45. Sorry, that'll be 90. That'll be about 45. So you probably want to be around about where my hand is there. So just try and loosen it off, and I think that would be good. And then we would peen it. So I'm just going to use a hammer and a screwdriver here, but you can use whatever you want. And we're just going to give it a couple of nice whacks. Might need something a bit more heavy duty than a screwdriver here. There we go, and that started to peen it in. And that should stop it coming undone easily. Now we would pack this with grease and pack all around here, and then we'd try and slide this on. Now if you packed it with too much grease, it tends to pop straight off again. It can be a bit fiddly, this part. I get my mallet, just gently try and knock it in. Better to use a rubber mallet here, or a soft impact mallet. What you don't want to do is use like a big heavy mallet or a metal hammer. And that's back on. The only thing we haven't put back on, which we would do is our banjo bolt, so we get our brake feed. Believe it's a flexible line, but I could be wrong. On here, into here, and we'd tighten that up until it was all lined up, and we'd do that up as tight as we could with our washer on the end here, and that would allow the hydraulic fluid to run through. Now what I would say as well is, if you do anything to the brakes whatsoever, please make sure you bleed your brakes as well, and I've already done a video on doing that. So that is our front brake, and how we would replace it, service it, whatever you want to do. Check it over, and yeah, job's done.